Okay, Jeff.
But we don't see Jeff. We can just hear him.
Well, that's maybe a good thing.
Jeff, can you turn your camera on?
Oh, I suppose I could. There I am.
Oh, he looks handsome tonight.
Oh, God, thank you, Mike. It's amazing what 75 miles will do, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Jeff, I'm ready to go whenever you are.
Okay, looks like we're set. So let's do we got everybody with? Everybody on? We know it was Sean.
I don't see Sean.
Well, why don't we start, and then he'll maybe join us by the time we do roll call. So
Just an FYI too, Joe Persky was going to connect with his phone. I don't see him on yet. And then join us on computer in a few minutes. And actually, I don't see Rich.
well, should we wait, see if we can get them on, those two?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, this is Angie Berg. I can try calling them and see if they're joining us here.
Here's Rich.
Checking in. Is my mic working? This is Rich.
It's working. You bet. Hi, Rich.
Hi, Jeff. Thanks.
And we just need Sean and Joe. So
If we get Sean connected as a voting member, then we'll start.
Yeah, I think Joe was going to try to come in on via telephone.
He said that, yeah, Deb just shared that with us, and then he'll join later.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks. I've never done it, but I always feel like I'm going to land an airplane or something with the headsets on and the way the audio is. When I watch TV, that's the way it sounds when the pilots are flying.
Sean just joined. So we can go.
Okay. Sean's on. So we'll call the April Stearns County Planning Commission meeting to order. Let's say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Thanks for joining us tonight. The first thing we'll do is do the roll call. So when I call your name, please say aye if you're with us. Jason Wienerman.
Aye.
Sean Blackburn.
Aye.
Jason Crone.
Aye.
Ken Mossman.
Aye.
Mike Perrell.
Aye.
Rich Blankish.
Aye.
And of course, I'm here. Joe Persky, are you with us? Not yet. He'll join us. Angie's going to explain why we're meeting the way we're meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Angie Berg, Environmental Services Supervisor. And we are meeting this way tonight in response to COVID-19 and pursuant to Minnesota Statute Chapter 12 relating to the emergency management order from Governor Walz. There is a state of emergency in response to 13D.021. Planning Commission members and the applicants may be participating by telephone or other electronic means, and this meeting is being broadcast live.
Jeff, not hearing you.
Thank you. I have to keep turning off my mic so there's no echo, and I forget to turn it on. So sorry about that. I said the first item we're considering is request submitted by Cliff and Bobby Locke of St. Joseph on behalf of Darren and Julie Lund Shakopee for a conditional use permit transfer of lease to a new owner. Angie will give the staff report.
Yes, our first item on the agenda is to consider amending conditional use permit 2010-18 to transfer the property lease to a new owner. This request is consistent with Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance number 439. The lease is currently required for 8 of the RV sites that are on the adjacent property. The adjacent property is currently and has been owned by Lewis and Laura Kunkel. No other changes to the conditional use permit are proposed. A bit of background history: in 1991 was the first conditional use permit, and then subsequently there's been a couple of amendments. The first one was in 2010. That was to transfer the lease to the current buyer, Mun's Lakeside Resort LLC. And some of you were on our planning commission back then, so you might remember this. And then in 2012, there was an amendment related to replacing a couple of cabins. At this point, our understanding is that all conditions have been met. Since it is difficult with the weather conditions, will confirm during the growing season that the shoreline restoration areas or the native buffer is still in place. This property is located in Section 10, Main Prairie Township. Property is zoned a residential 1. It is located on Pearl Lake. Access is from County Road 8, and the property does hold a lodging license from Stearns County and is currently in compliance. I will pull up a map. So the area in red, Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Commission, is the leased area. The area in blue is the ownership area, and the red proposed area is the area that they are asking to transfer to the new property owner. And the reason this comes in front of you every single time they propose a change to the property owner is because the lease is specific. It doesn't go with the property, it goes with the property owner, which is the prerogative of the underlying landowner. So with that, Mr. Chair, I would entertain any questions. Otherwise, our proposed conditions are listed in your packet. Basically, that the new lease is recorded before transfer of ownership, or basically in conjunction with the transfer of ownership. And we will, again, any deficiencies to the shoreline restoration will need to be rectified if there are any issues by August 1st. And then all other conditions of the previous CUPs will remain in effect. That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you, Angie. We'll do check-in of who visited the site. So if you did visit the site, when I call your name, please say yes. Jason Wienerman?
Yes.
Sean Blackburn?
Yes.
Jason Crone?
Yes.
Ken Mossman?
Yes.
Mike Perrell?
Yes.
Rich Blankish?
Yes.
Commissioner Persky, are you with us? And I visited the site as well. Heidi visited the site on April 5th of 2021. So, okay, are there any questions by the Planning Commission members at this point? If not, I understand that the blocks are with us. If you'd please say your name and state your address for the record, please.
It's Clifford Locke, 615 Hackberry Drive, St. Joseph, Minnesota.
Okay. Thank you. Are you alone, Cliff?
No, my wife is here.
Okay. Just state your name. Go ahead.
Roberta Locke, 615 Hackberry Drive, St. Joseph.
Got it. Is there anything you want to add to the staff report?
No, it all sounds good. What we see is it sounds good.
Okay. So members, do you have any questions of the applicant or staff regarding this item?
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman here. Just a point of clarification for staff. What we are doing here is we're approving the transfer of lease ownership. not the underlying ownership of land, correct?
Angie?
Mr. Chair, Member Wienerman, yes, just the lease agreement, not the underlying ownership. The underlying ownership will remain under Louis and Laura Kunkel.
Okay, thank you.
And then Angie, did we hear anything from the township?
Mr. Chair, we did not hear anything from the township.
Okay. Is there anyone from the public joining us to comment on this item? Please state your name or say something. Is there anybody here from the public? No one's here on site, but is there anybody with us that would like to say something about this item? Okay, if not,
Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn, I move we close the public hearing.
okay, Sean moves we close the public hearing.
Jason Crone seconds.
Jason Crone seconds. Any discussion of that? If not, all those in favor of closing the public hearing say aye when I call your name. Jason Wienerman,
Aye.
Sean Blackburn,
Aye.
Jason Crone,
Aye.
Ken Mossman,
Aye.
Mike Perrell,
Aye.
Rich Blankish,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Okay, public hearing is closed. Correspondence, there isn't any, obviously. So discussion of the item. If not, then we'll do the findings. Number. I'm sorry. Did somebody have something?
No, Mr. Chair, I was just going to, Jason Crone was just going to comment. This seems as a pretty straightforward request.
Right. Number one, is the proposal consistent with the zoning ordinance?
Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn.
Fire away, Sean.
All right, I gotcha. It is consistent with land use and zoning ordinance 439, sections 4.8, 6.48, and 10.2.23.
Two, does the proposal conform to the comprehensive plan of the county?
Mr. Chair, Jason Crone, it does to a few of them. You could look at business goals, acknowledging tourism's economic value and the prospective contribution of this industry to both diversity of the county economic base and potential for growth. I also think it applies to aspects of lakeshore living policy, to a degree dealing with clustering, and I'm looking for the specific wording on it, which I'm struggling with. But anyway, clustering away and providing housing options to reduce development on lake shores.
Three, is the proposal compatible with the existing neighborhood?
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman here. There's no change in use, so yes, it is.
Or how has the applicant demonstrated that standards and criteria stated in the ordinance will be satisfied?
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman again. As per the previous conditions of the permit, those will be satisfied.
Five, other issues pertinent to this matter. Township city input, we did not have any. Federal, state, local permits. None are required. Environmental concerns, it would only be that the shoreline restoration areas that have to be inspected. That probably be the only thing. We're going by our new format, by the way, if you didn't notice, of the findings. So information submitted regarding the impact of property values, there has been none. Public health and safety, traffic generation impacts, nothing changes. Public service facilities, schools, parks, streets, nothing changes. Financial assurance is required to guarantee reclamation or cleanup. It's not applicable. So that's those items. So having done the findings of fact, we should be ready to do the Motion.
Mr.
Mr.
Chair,
Chair,
Go ahead,
Go ahead,
Jason.
okay. I recommend approval of this interim use permit transfer request to the County Board of Commissioners with the recommended conditions.
By the way, the meeting will be on the 20th, Tuesday, this coming Tuesday. There's a motion to recommend approval.
Crone seconds.
Jason Crone seconds. So we got Jason 1 and 2 doing their deal. Any discussion of the motion? If not, if you're in favor of recommending approval to the county board for their April 20th meeting, say aye when I call your name. If you're not, say nay. Jason Wienerman.
Aye.
Sean Blackburn.
Aye.
Jason Crone.
Aye.
Ken Mossman.
Aye.
Mike Perrell.
Aye.
Rich Blankish.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. So the recommendation is to recommend to the county board to approve the transfer of the lease. Thank you. Locks, good luck. Next agenda item is item number 2. Consider a request for a conditional use permit submitted by IPS Solar, Roseville. Angie, you want to give the staff report?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The property owner is Brian and Carolyn Cash and Gregory Cash. Property is located in Paynesville Township. The applicant is IPS Solar. The proposal is a conditional use permit to construct a 1 megawatt solar energy system in the Agricultural 40 zoning district. A few pieces of background. This property might look a bit familiar to you. It was rezoned in August from transitional 20 to agricultural 40. And the Planning Commission then subsequently conducted a public hearing for a solar garden directly north of this property, recommending a denial on 4-3. This item was on the county board's agenda the same meeting that they changed the zoning ordinance. Therefore, action was not required because the first 1 megawatt is permitted. The other thing I would like to note on this is it is currently being presented to you as a conditional use permit, and that this will be the last solar farm in front of you under a conditional use permit because they have been changed now to interim use for projects that are over 1 megawatt on the same property. Per our usual staff report of solar gardens, the property has been reviewed for wetlands, no concerns with wetlands. There's no stormwater management required because they're not creating over an acre of impervious lot coverage. The manufacturer's specifications and decommissioning aviation analysis, visual impact analysis, and ground cover are all covered in the staff report and in the application. According to the comprehensive plan, prime farmland soils map, it is considered not prime farmland in this situation. We did do a land evaluation site assessment for the rezoning, and so that's the score that we have in front of you today. The entire property, which is approximately 160 acres, is a score of 53, and the LISA score for the 18 acres that were rezoned from transitional to agricultural is a score of 63.85. I'm going to move to the proposed conditions, of which I am not going to read them all. There are proposed number of 7 conditions. The last one I would note would be to carry on any recommendations from the Department of Natural Resources related to any concerns with natural heritage sites. We have not heard back from them yet, and that is a new process that we enacted a few months ago. So that's all I have, Mr. Chair. Unless there's any questions, I'll put a map up of the property. And again, just real quick, the yellow on the map is the area that now will have a 1 megawatt solar garden that will be permitted administratively. The proposed red area would be the area that you're considering tonight.
Angie, Jason Crone, question, or sorry, Mr. Chair, question for staff, or Angie. So help me, I'm just a little confused on the multiple 1 megawatts on the same property. Is maybe my mistake on understanding it previously, or something changed and I'm still not caught up. So how does that work?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Jason Crone, so the question is basically why is the first megawatt approved administratively, and why is this a conditional use?
Yes.
Okay, so prior to the county board making a change last month, all solar farms were required to go through a conditional use permit process. The county board did make a change to the ordinance that is effective next Tuesday, which basically makes the first megawatt solar farm on any one property be administrative. What may throw you off is that you're seeing different blue parcel lines. Parcel numbers or parcel lines don't necessarily equal parcel of record. And so we go by parcel of record. Parcel of record means how the property is deeded. And so therefore, this red area that's shown here is on the same overall parcel. Therefore, now the second megawatt requires additional use permit.
Oh, I appreciate the clarification. That kind of goes back to some of the questions, I guess, prior to the meeting that were coming up, was entirely why. And I should have probably followed through on those a little bit more. So I appreciate the explanation, Angie. Thank you.
Angie, Jason Wienerman here. At what size does a solar farm need this state permit?
Mr. Chair, Member Wienerman, it's 50 megawatts, which would, in Stearns County, the only state permitted solar farms that we have are the Aurora sites. And that was a complicated review process by the state, and it ended up going to court. But that one was a distributed solar project, so collectively statewide, that project was over 50, therefore it was permitted by the state. And that includes the one in Painesville Township and the one in Albany Township.
So sort of in relation to this project, why are they capping them at 1 megawatt? Is that a permitting thing, or is that an incentive thing, or is there another reason that we know of?
Mr. Chair, Member Wienerman, that's basically the current state guidance from the Public Utilities Commission. That was also litigated, and I'm sure the solar company could give you lots of details on that. But prior to it being 1 megawatt, it was 5. And that's why some of the solar farms that the county permitted and the Planning Commission and the board permitted in St. Joe Township were actually permitted up to 5. But now the incentive goes up to 1 megawatt. So you're seeing multiple, well, as the Planning Commission's been seeing, you're seeing multiple 1 megawatt systems very close or adjacent to each other. And that is the way that we see some solar companies doing their business now.
All right, thank you.
And Jason, I have obviously some points that I'm going to share later that I'll give you what I'm hearing, why that's happening. So what solar companies will tell us and what is happening is two different things kind of, but let's get back on track if we can. Let's do members who visited the site roll call. So if you visited the site, say yes when I call your name. By the way, Commissioner Persky is with us now, so welcome, Commissioner Persky.
Good to be here.
District 1, Jason Wienerman.
Yes.
Sean Blackburn.
Yes.
Jason Crone.
Yes.
Ken Mossman.
Yes.
Mike Perrell.
Yes.
Rich Blankish.
No.
Commissioner Persky.
I did, on this last review, I did not visit it, but earlier I had been at the site.
Okay. And obviously, I visited the site, so that takes care of that. We'll have applicant introductions. So who's with us tonight?
My name is Evan Carlson. I'm with IPS. I've been here before for several projects. Those first two in St. Joseph, I developed also, among others. And I also have Jacob Hay with me. Jacob, are you on?
Yes, I'm here.
Jacob has more familiarity with this particular parcel. I have more familiarity with the program and the mechanics of actually building the system. So we'll both be able to answer questions. His will be more site specific.
Okay. Do you have anything you want to add to the staff report?
Yeah, you know, unlike the first project, this is under the revised ordinance. The important part to think about these two projects, although that one did get an application before we did, this project is ahead of that one in the interconnection queue with Excel. So as I've described, you know, if you want to build one of these things, the first thing that you need to do is to get a lease. Then you go to Excel and you pay them $22,000 to hire a third-party engineer to study the cost to accommodate an interconnection at this point in the grid. And that money's gone. They spend it on an engineer. We also give them a $100,000 deposit to preserve our place in an interconnection queue so that no other developer can hop ahead of us and use up the capacity in Excel's grid at that particular point. We are ahead of that second project, although they filed for an application before we did. The other things that we've discussed, the project needs to be located in Excel territory. It needs to be on a three-phase power line that has capability of handling the power and near a substation that has the capability of handling the power. This meets all those criteria. It's unusual. Also, this property happens to not be on prime ag land, although most of the county is prime ag land. So this is not a great farming site. I know people are sensitive about that, but this is not a prime site. So, I'm here to listen to your concerns, and I want to make sure that we try and keep this discussion about land use and not about the merits of solar, as it has sometimes gets. But again, it's a good site. We satisfy the ordinance. And, I'm here to answer any questions you have. If we want to talk about solar, I'm available to do that. I will go down that rabbit hole, but I'm trying to keep it on the rails here.
Well, Mr. Carlson, I appreciate that, but I'm the chair and we have our own rules. So we're going to talk about what we want to talk about. So be prepared to go down a rabbit hole because this is a public hearing. That's why we have this process. And unless I'm wrong, maybe I should check with staff. We kind of control that discussion. So, but thank you. Members have, anybody have any questions or issues that they want to discuss? If not, there's nobody here for the public hearing. We do have two letters. So I'm going to ask if someone's with us that wants to say something that's online by chance. If someone with us online, there's no one in the building. If there's no one with us, then Angie, do you want to read the letters, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. We have a letter,
I should say. We have one letter.
Okay, good. That's what I have too. So we have a letter submitted by Linda Lissman of Willow Creek Farm, and it says to whom it may concern. Per phone conversation with your office, is my understanding there's a second proposal and conditional use permit request for a solar garden on agricultural land owned by the Cashes. I did not explain my concerns over the first one, on which I received notice back in January. These are my neighbors, and we must have a relationship. We have a relationship that I highly value. However, with a second proposal for a solar garden on the property, I feel that I must express my concerns. Our area north of Paynesville is being choked with solar gardens in recent years, and I am deeply concerned that my farm could be surrounded by these developments in time. I'm not against solar gardens as important technology to bring us into a better place environmentally. There has to be a limit to how much ag land and important open space is used for them, and how the land is changed drastically in use long term. I don't believe that solar gardens next to my land will enhance its value and appeal. Planting prairie flowers and grasses beneath them does not make up for the fact that the land is used for an industrial use that is not a garden at all. In my opinion, we already have enough in our area and think county planning should become considerably more careful in just how much land can be used for this purpose in one area. And I am also dissenting against adding the second project and any more in my area. I have been contacted more than once about putting a solar garden on my farm. I cannot and will not do it for the sake of the land, agriculture, local environment, local open space beauty, and what the land does to provide and protect water and wildlife. I have one additional request. Solar gardens are far from beautiful. They are industrial, and as such, they should all be surrounded by full, healthy hedges that grow 14 to 16 feet, such as Caragana. This would prevent more aesthetic enhancement, provide a windbreak, and places for birds and wildlife. As more solar industrial sites are developed, the county needs to put a lot more immediate thought into how these sites are developed. If they are scattered about the countryside or kept contiguous, what kind of land will be used for them and how the environment and beauty of the area will be disturbed long term. As I said, they are industrial sites, they are not gardens. Thank you for your consideration. Linda Lissman.
Okay. So that's the only letter. No one's with us that wants to have any input. So motion to close the public hearing be in order.
This is Rich. I'll make that motion.
Okay.
This is Sean. I'll second it.
Rich moves and Sean seconds to close the public hearing. Any discussion? If not, if you're in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye when I call your name. Jason Wienerman.
Aye.
Sean Blackburn.
Aye.
Jason Crone.
Aye.
Ken Mossman.
Aye.
Mike Perrell.
Aye.
Rich Blankish.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, so the public hearing is closed. Discussion. Any questions or input from the Planning Commission members?
Mr. Chair,
Mr.
Jason
Chair.
Wienerman here. A question for the applicant. So according to your site plan, you only go about 2/3 of the way across the field. Why did you choose to be wider and shorter as opposed to narrower and longer?
Yeah, that is to give a larger setback to the road and to surrounding properties for aesthetic reasons.
Thank you.
Any other member?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Jason Crone. Same thing, question for applicant. Other side of that is where it's located on the property. Is there a reason it's located as far south and not closer to the north, basically directly adjacent to the other solar garden?
Yeah, I think that the idea was to start as far south as possible and work your way up. That other project jumped ahead of us, and had they waited their turn, then they probably would have located theirs further north or closer to ours. But my understanding is that, Jake, you can help me out here, that the landowner wanted to start from the south and put any subsequent projects to the north of it.
Yeah, there was that, and then some of the.
Do you want to state your name for the record, please?
Yeah, my name's Jake Hay. I'm with IPS Solar. We were going to try to do that, and then there was building for the 3-phase as well that was further to the east, and it was a significant distance to build it in, and that's part of the reason it's located where it is.
That's a good point. So the 3-phase line is located over to the east near this turn in the road where that existing solar array is. And we are bringing out new 3-phase up to our site. And that's basically when I describe, it's a fee that we pay to Excel to improve Excel's infrastructure to support our project. It's a revenue neutral program for Excel. So when we want to build this, we have to pay just like any other Excel customer to bring three-phase to the site, and it costs a lot. So it's smart for our purposes to be as far south as we can.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman, question for staff building upon the applicant's answers there. I don't know if it's an appropriate question or not, but are there any more, do we know if there are any more solar projects in the queue for this parcel or a nearby parcel in the same area? Is there anything on the books that'll be administratively approved or come before us that you're aware of, if appropriate?
Angie.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Member Wienerman, not that I'm aware of, but we don't necessarily have that. We wouldn't be privy to that information on what is in the queue and where it is in the queue related to properties in Stearns County. That's something that we wish we could get, but isn't something that we're allowed to get. And so what I can tell you is that we don't have anything pending, and we don't currently have anybody inquiring, but there could be projects out there that are in the queue unbeknownst to us.
Thank you.
And I will tell you, Jason, that we have 40 projects, very close 40 projects in Stearns County right now, over 90 applications. 40 of the 90 have been approved. Some are operating. Up to over 50 have been, they're in the mix. And now with the county board going to administrative approvals with IUPs with no public hearing process, trust me, that's going to kick in fast, because they're going to really start ramping it up now as McLeod County is denying all solar projects, as Wright County put a moratorium on approval of solar projects. Other counties are taking a deep breath and backing off. We've opened the floodgates wide open, so you're going to see them pop up fast. And unbeknownst to us, as you know, the county board did this kind of quickly without questioning or asking, or we had no input on this. So, and that's why one of the projects, the St. Joe project, was pulled from the agenda, because, you know, why pay the permit fee and go through this public hearing process when you can just administratively get them approved? But that's beyond our control. But members, you have other questions, or if not,
Mr. Chair, Jason Crone, and that the comment is this, and you're right. It's an interesting change with the IUP process. The hard part about 1 megawatt is that when it comes to land use and zoning, this is exactly the challenge that it creates. I have nothing against solar. I love solar, but if you're going to, and I realize this is regulation and there's all kinds of red tape involved in this, but if you're going to do solar, and I think a solar company would agree with this too, then do solar. Put 10 acres in a solar garden where people can actually gain efficiencies. The problem with the way things happen right now with the 1 megawatt is that it's just all spot solar. And we see it at the county level. And this is an example, too. This is not a well thought out parcel from a land use perspective. Obviously, this solar company, both solar companies have their reasons for locating the garden where they are, but it's not well thought because they're both doing it in isolation. And so it does create some challenges. That's why I struggle. I don't know what we'll do about it in this case, but I do sincerely wish that if we were going to do solar, we would do solar in large quantities where you can gain efficiencies and utilize resources appropriately. To me, this 1 megawatt here, 1 megawatt there, while in certain instances might make sense, most of the time it just creates inefficiency for the companies trying to generate a profit on it, and it creates challenges for all of the landowners in the area. So my 2 cents, it's a struggle with these 1 megawatts.
And Jason, Commissioner Persky can elaborate on, again, the 1 megawatt, 2 megawatt, and the taxation part of that.
I can respond to that, and that's something we're approaching with the legislature right now, is to get it changed, because the way it is if it's 1 meg, there's no local property tax, or the property tax at this time stays as ag, and they pay the agricultural. Well, they put in the second one, it also stays as ag. Third one, it stays as ag. And if they're separate 1 megs, but if they would come in and they put in more than 1 meg, then it has to be turned over and becomes commercial. So this one at a time has been a way to, to prevent from having to pay the property tax as industrial or commercial, opposed to paying it as ag. However, we also have the issue of production tax, and it's similar, but the county doesn't want to get into production tax right now, but that seems to be an issue as well.
And I should state that the board going to a IUP administrative approval of these projects was a 4-to-1 vote. Commissioner Persky did vote against making it that easy. So kudos to you, Commissioner Persky, for trying to maintain some reason, I guess.
Could I address the program, the 1 megawatt issue, and maybe the number of potential projects in the future? Would that be helpful?
Well, it might be, but you're one of 100 companies. So, but you can give the IPS spin on it.
I'll tell you the truth, because there's only one truth about this, and that's what I'm going to tell you. And if you do enough digging, you'll come to the same conclusion. Developers want economies of scale. We want to build bigger because there's more profit in it that way. Initially, at the onset of the program, there was no limit on how many 1 megawatt gardens could be placed right next to each other. So these developers pour in from out of state, and they start proposing 100 megawatts on an abandoned golf course in Monticello. And that was never the intent of the program. The intent of community solar is to provide access to solar for people who don't have a good spot for it. It is a community of people who have grouped together to have solar panels treated as though they are up on their roof, okay? So at first it's the Wild West. We've got all these developers coming in from out of state, and they're proposing huge projects. Xcel eventually reaches an agreement with the developers that says that projects can be projects that had been applied for to Xcel by 2016, a date in 2016, would be capped at 5 megawatts. They could be no larger than 5 megawatts. And those are the projects that you'll see in St. Joseph. And if you go to those projects, although they are surrounded by one fence, you'll see that there are several sets of poles at the interconnection. And there will be a set of poles for each 1 megawatt garden, because to Xcel, they're treated as 5 separate co-located 1 megawatt gardens, okay? So everything going forward from that point must be 1 megawatt or smaller per the rules with Xcel. When that happened, you saw a lot of developers leave the state. However, local developers like us, the little guys who actually live in this community and pay taxes in the state, are able to build several smaller projects like this. Now, granted, we prefer to build a bigger one because there's just, more profit in it. But you see, that's why you see 1 megawatt on a site at a time. It's not an effort to dodge the production tax. It is merely the rules that we were forced into through negotiations with Xcel. Okay, so let's be real about that. That's how we came to the state of things. If we could go bigger, we would. And then as far as the number of projects that you can build, we are limited by the capability of the grid to handle projects and by the profit margins that we get with Xcel. Every year, the deal gets worse, the projects are slimmer, and we find it harder to make a profit. And they are going to be a lot harder in 2021, and a lot of developers aren't going to be developing this year. A lot of developers that you've seen before a lot of people you've seen before are going to lose their jobs because these margins are getting thinner. And so it's the margins are thinner, and we have to continue to find places in the existing electrical grid that have not been filled up with projects. The areas that have not allowed for solar, I suspect that they will have projects permitted through the state eventually. And there will not be an opportunity for input from the Planning Commission at that point. It will go through the Public Utilities Commission. So when that does happen, I suspect that the areas that did not encourage reasonable development and put reasonable measures in place to encourage development in places where it's appropriate will see developments that they tried to prevent from happening. However, that probably isn't going to be the case here in Stearns County because most of the areas are full. And that's why you're seeing these things clustered together in the same area. If they weren't full, they'd be all over the place, but that's just not how it is.
And I appreciate that, Mr. Carlson. And again, certainly there will be opinions and there's facts. I'm sure both of us will state our opinions, but they're not necessarily factual. It's from an advantage point. So the PUC, at least if it came before, can you, I'm sorry. I don't know how you run your meetings, Mr. Carlson, but wait until I'm done and then I'll recognize you. Then you can say something. But the PUC would still be a public hearing process. So if that does happen, thank goodness to the rest of the Stearns County residents, at least there will be a public hearing process if that does happen. Now, I'm sorry you interrupted me. What were you going to say?
Sorry for interrupting. We were back, I guess, before you were discussing the public hearing process. Disregard it.
Okay. And then I have a number of questions. Members, you have questions. I'm going to ask for some, some forgiveness. This is the last one we're going to get for a while. I am going to ask specific questions just to point out that the application is not 100% online, informational, and this is what's going to show, and this is going to be on the record. I asked Angie and Deb to make sure that these specific points are on the record in the minutes, because when I'm 96 and these things, or younger, and these things go south, I want to make damn sure that when people look back and say, why didn't somebody say something? I'm going to be able to say, I did, and some of you did. And so please bear with me. I am going to ask some questions, and I'm going to make some points for the record. I have strong opinions about this. I've talked to many counties. They can't believe that we did what we did, but so be it. But specific to the application, Mr. Carlson asked me to be specific, so let me do that. On page 33, it says, there are rare plants and animals, native plant communities, and other rare features within 1 mile of the map on the proposal, the Natural Heritage Information System. Therefore, the proposal was sent to the DNR. Now, Angie said we did not hear back from the DNR. I doubt that we'll hear back from them before Monday. And so we were not going to hear from that. But some of the Planning Commission members in other instances before us have been very concerned about that fact on other things that we do. I guess, what do we know about that?
Are you asking me or staff?
No, you.
Well, my understanding is that the application was made to the DNR and we haven't heard back yet, likely because there's no issue. Again, I kind of drew a blank there regarding that issue I was going to address, but this contract between the developers and the utility, it is a document that you can download and read. It is not a matter of opinion. It is a matter of fact. I suggest you work with the actual facts and look at the contract.
Okay, so you don't know anything about the rare plants, animals, native plant communities that have been identified on this site?
In this cornfield, no, there are none. They have not been identified. There is suspected that there may be within a mile from here, but there are no rare plants in this cornfield. There are no rare animals within this cornfield that is sprayed with pesticides repeatedly for the last who knows how long. This project, however, will create pollinator habitat. It will create wildlife habitat. But right now, no, there are no. There's no indication that there are no rare and endangered species in this this pesticide-covered cornfield.
And maybe I'm reading the staff report wrong, but on page 33, it says there are, and then it goes through that, but let's move on from that. On page 34, oh, by the way, Jennifer Buckentine visited the site on December 9th of 2020. So there was a site review by staff as well. Page 34, it says a 7-foot chain link deer style fence. Can you tell me what a deer style fence is?
Yeah, it's like more like larger squares as opposed to chain link diamonds. And the point there is that it allows wildlife to pass through the fence. Smaller wildlife, rodents, birds, insects, more than you would get through a normal chain link fence.
Okay. Page 48, it says 6-foot trees to the east and west. On page 53, it says property owner doesn't need additional screening. Page 57, it says fence is fixed, not styled fence. I'm not sure what a not style fence is, unless that's what you just described right now. But it kind of says there's going to be a fence, then the property owner doesn't want a fence, and then there's going to be a non-style fence. So is there going to be a fence or isn't there going to be a fence?
Yes, there's going to be a fence. It will be a fixed knot style fence is another name for a deer style fence.
A deer style fence, got it, okay. Yep. And then township comments, did we have township? No township comments. Just as a reminder, there's 4 projects and 1 solar farm within a mile of this project, for the record. The applicants aren't with us, so I can't ask them, or are the applicants with us, the caches?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Cash was intending on joining us. I do not see him yet online. I don't know if the applicants know if he's joining us, but he's not currently present.
Are the caches with us?
Did you get him, Jake? We tried to get him.
Yeah,
okay.
He intended on being here.
Okay. For the record, I want to ask, and obviously they can't answer it, but do the applicants understand that they may be dealing with several different solar companies throughout the 35 years of the project? I think we've had one project now that have sold 3 times since they were permitted. So I didn't know if they were aware of that or not, and I can ask them that privately as well. And then, Mr. Carlson, where does this generated power go?
It enters Excel's distribution network.
At the substation of Painesville. So it'll be, the energy will be distributed locally from that substation, hence the community solar. It is the actual energy consumed from the garden is used locally in the city.
I've described it as like water going through a sprinkler system. It's kind of like we're putting our thumb on one end of the sprinkler. So power, anybody between this array and the substation would be getting solar power when it's producing. To Excel, a watt of power is a watt of power regardless where it is at any time. But yeah, it goes south, and then we're paying to bring out new 3-phase along the road there to the south point, and then up.
So based on what Mr. Hayes said, it comes from this solar farm into the substation along the Highway 23 bypass, and it's going to go from that substation directly into the city of Painesville, all of it.
Correct, yeah.
Where those feeder lines distribute, yes, from that substation, yes. I mean, directly into the city, wherever Excel has built their grid, yes.
And Angie, if we can get a hold of Excel Energy, just for the record, I'd like to have them explain that. Again, it won't happen. We won't find that out now until after, but I do want to find that out, that all the power from these solar farms are going into the substation and then going directly into the city. Page 42. Go ahead.
Well, it's not possible for them to transmit the individual electrons somewhere. They can't control where this energy goes. It flows like water. It takes the least path of resistance. So yes, I would very much encourage reaching out to Excel to find out what happens once the energy hits their grid.
Because everything I've heard prior to this is that it's going to the grid, and the grid goes to Maple Grove.
It depends what lines and transmission lines are running there, but from the lines from there, you can follow them on public maps and see where they feed to.
Yeah, let me explain this, Jake. So there is a transmission network, and then there is a distribution network. So transmission network is it's federally regulated. That's where you see the high lines, and that's where Xcel transmit power, usually from a power plant to a substation. At the substation, it is stepped down and enters into the distribution network that is owned by Xcel. And we plug into Xcel's distribution network because we're not a power plant in the sense that we're selling power directly to the utility. We're really selling bill credits to other Xcel customers who do not have a good spot for solar panels. So it's complicated, and you might want to talk to an engineer about it, talk to Xcel about it to get a better understanding, but that is the essence of it. So perhaps what you were referring to is the transmission network and not the distribution network.
Sure. I guess I want to get a handle on it because, the people that kind of are pro-solar are saying, well, it's all staying local. And the people that are realists are telling me, no, it's going all over the place. And obviously where the most need is, and the metro need is greater than City of Painesville, 2,200 population. I don't think they could use, I think we're up to 14 farms now in that area. I don't think they could use that power, but we'll find that out from Xcel as an FYI. Page 42, it says, will you be disturbing more than an acre? There it says it's going to be between 7 and 7.5 acres. Page 56 says there will be no disturbance of more than an acre. Page 47, 54, page 49 says 7 to 7.5 acres. So I'm confused on what's going to be disturbed and what's not going to be disturbed.
The array is affixed to the ground with a driven I-beam that is not footed in concrete. That is not a disturbance to the ground. The only disturbance to the ground is the road and the concrete equipment pad that houses our metering equipment. So the rest of it is just a bunch of I-beams we pound into the ground. We put a rack on the beams, panels go on the rack, and the whole thing gets yanked out in the future. But it's not a very sophisticated structure. It's a bunch of I-beams hammered into the ground. And those are not considered an impact because there's grass underneath them.
And how do you get from one part of the project to the other, distributing the poles and the panels and the wiring? And
we drive through the grass.
Okay.
Or on the road. I mean, there is an access road, and there is a class 5 access road going to the equipment pad. But once you leave the equipment pad and you get inside of it, then it's just grass.
And they'll be driving around the entire 7.5 acres.
Correct. Yeah.
Obviously.
Building. So we got to get our pollinator. We put down a base before we start building, especially if we're building in the spring, so it's not muddy. We got to get something growing there so it doesn't turn into mud, and we can drive on it while we're building it.
Page 48, it says 3 months construction project, 8 to 6, 7 days a week, or how long? It says 8 to 6, but all the permitting, again, just to show the hypocrisy, guys, sand pits were down to when they can operate, no Saturdays, no forenoons, no holidays, everything else. This is wide open. 3 month construction period, 8 to 6 p.m. So I'm just curious, either one of you, Mr. Hayes or Mr. Carlson, you have an idea? And
construction will take approximately 3 months, whereas a gravel pit operates indefinitely for years, and it creates a lot more noise. The most noisy thing we do is pound those I-beams into the ground, and I'll admit that is annoying, but it's temporary, and once it's done, the noise is gone.
The 3 month period, though, is 8 to 6. Is that 7 days a week? Is it including holidays?
That would be 5 days a week. Our guys don't operate on the weekends, but there may be people on site inspecting things. We sometimes have the bee people out to look at things, and other people to maybe inspect the seed mix, things like that. But as far as construction goes, these are essentially 9 to 5 people. They're not.
Okay. Page 48 says the reporting requirements. It lists all the different reporting requirements. during the construction and after the construction? And maybe, Angie, this is both from a staff perspective and from the IPS people. Who monitors that reporting information? Who gets that?
Mr. Chair, I'm just looking at that page. So page 48, which item?
It's the reporting part. It says item number 3, operation, emergency response will be operated, monitored 24 hours a day, 365 days a week. Computer system data, appropriate personnel, maintenance crews will perform maintenance array, and they have to keep all that data. I'm just curious, who gets that?
Mr. Chair, we have never seen that sort of report. In terms of if there would be a particular emergency spill or environmental hazard during construction or even operation, there would be the obligation of the property owner, the applicant, to call the Minnesota duty officer, and then the county is notified. But I'm not aware, nor have I seen this computer data acquisition system information before.
And maybe Mr. Carlson or Mr. Hayes, if they're compiling it, they'd know who monitors it, who sees it.
Yeah, so it's monitored by 2 people, really. It's us. There are actually literally 2 monitors there. And one is us and one is Excel. And that's because that's where we're measuring, that's our income. That's the money going into the grid. And Excel's keeping an eye on us, and we're keeping an eye on it to make sure that it's operating properly. In fact, we also monitor, or the owner operator also monitors weather to make sure, if it's going to be a sunny day and it just snowed, they'll get out there and brush them off, make sure it's producing that day. Or if for some reason it should be producing and it's not, they become aware of it and they get out there and fix it. But yes, it's monitored twice by 2 of us, and it's done through like a cell phone signal.
Okay. Page 49, it says that an ALTA survey will be conducted prior to construction. Has that been conducted already?
There's an ALTA survey?
Yes.
No, I don't believe it has, no.
Okay. Page 52, you state the city will be designated beneficiary of the financial security. Which city, and why is the city involved with it?
It's a typo. The county.
It's the county?
Yes, the county would be the beneficiary, correct.
Does somebody want to make that change then? Because obviously if we approve this, we're approving that the city would be the beneficiary, and I don't think we want that. And then number 52, again, members, I beg your indifference here, but humor me, I guess. Page 52, you state you will meet decommissioning standards of Chisago County. Why would we be meeting the standards of Chisago County?
Yeah, obviously you wouldn't. It's a typo. I apologize. We reused some of this stuff. I wrote this narrative and I adapted it to the county standards, and I must have missed that. That part of our standard language in our application.
Okay. And then the decommissioning cost on page 88, it says 22,000. Page 87, it says 43,000. I guess we've heard a lot about decommissioning costs and everything. Do you know which one that is? I mean, it's a $25,000 difference. So,
yeah, I mean, it's what you tell us it is. What are the rules here for a decommissioning amount?
Well, the rules are 185,000, but in your own report, the pages I'm referencing are your application. And so just so I'm clear, I just would like to know, even for us, for future purposes, it would help us if we really know, is it 22,000 or is it 80 or is it 43,000?
Where are you seeing this 22,000 in the decommissioning plan?
Correct.
Yeah. So it's an engineering report, an estimate of what it will cost to decommission it. the amount proposed in the narrative section is what we are suggesting.
Yeah. Page 80, 88 and 87 is where the two different numbers are. On page 87, on the bottom of the chart, it says total cost 43,187, and then on page 88, it has a multiply by 125% factor for safety factor 22,130. So I guess I'm not sure that we know, but I'm not clear. I mean, if you figure if 5 people work at $50 an hour, $2,000 a day, and it takes 15 days, that's 30,000 just on labor. But I guess we'll leave that one go. Page 52, several references are made about recycling disposal panel, but no identification of with whom or where. Terms are used like approved recycler, but no one's named. Page 88 says a maximum of a 60-mile haul, meaning the disposal would occur within a 60-mile radius. I'm not aware of a landfill in a 60-mile radius. Page 86, well, let me read page 86. I don't want to take anything out of context. It says PV modules will be recycled, but doesn't say where. And then it says they will be either recycled or returned to the manufacturer. It doesn't say where or who that manufacturer is. It says aluminum wire will be dug up if required and recycled. So I'm not sure if we're requiring that or not. And it doesn't say where. And then it says dismantle the string of inverter recycling components. And again, it doesn't say where. And then it says the transformers are going to be, they weigh approximately 85 pounds, are pad mounted, and it says they'll be disposed of. But again, what are you going to do with them?
You're asking me what we intend to do with them after we remove them?
Right. Everything, all these items within the 60-mile radius of a haul, the recycler, the transformers. You know, can you at least give a specific name of a business or a location where they're going to go? Again, per your current plan, I understand that may change, but if we don't have identified them today, we probably sure won't know where they're going to go at the end.
Yeah, I mean, just to back up here, once they're gone, for the purposes of land use, they're no longer a problem for the county because they've been removed from the parcel. So again, trying to stay within the parameters of land use. Once they're gone, where they go is not too relevant. Second, I challenge you to tell me where an aluminum can will go for recycling in 35 years. And I challenge you to tell me where even a plastic bottle can go for recycling right now. There are many recycling centers that they're not actually accepting plastic bottles in many states. So given that has changed recently, I think it's unreasonable to expect that I can forecast how exactly this solar panel will be recycled throughout its entire supply chain of recycling 35 years in the future. I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, but I can tell you that there are recyclers here who can disassemble a solar panel with equipment. There aren't a lot of them that have invested in buying this equipment yet because there aren't a lot of solar panels to be recycled. However, it can be done. Some recyclers have invested in this equipment, but I can't tell you whether or not the aluminum will be recyclable in 35 years. I can't tell you whether the glass will be recyclable in 35 years or the plastic, but it can be done. These materials are recyclable, and it can be done now. There are facilities that will take it, but it is just not something that I think you can reasonably expect me to describe the entire supply chain of recycling 35 years from now. I can't do it.
I'll get back to where those other items get recycled, but I guess I'm not sure that I ask you that you should identify it, but in your application that you submitted for approval, you're saying they're going to be recycled. So I'm taking you for your word that they're going to be recycled. I'm just curious, in today's world, where would that be? You made a good analogy there. I can tell you where plastic goes. It goes to 3 recycling centers in the state right now. That gets recycled, cut up. Carpet padding is a big one. So any recyclables that we've interacted with in the last, let's say, 3 to 5 months, 3 to 6 months, that's in carpet padding or in other plastic type products that it's derived from. Aluminum, of course, gets melted down and gets reused into aluminum products. Glass gets crushed and used in shooting range walls, as do tires. Cardboard gets recycled and gets made into cereal boxes. And paper gets recycled and becomes a gluey material that goes on the outside of the cereal boxes, and that's where they put the bright colors, print the bright colors on it and everything. So I'm glad you're concerned about that, but yes, that is getting recycled today.
I can follow up on that. Sorry, I'm trying to just get a little more light here. So that may be true for some plastics. I mean, you seem to know a lot about it, and as I'm sure you know, there are types of plastics that get recycled, and they're labeled with the little triangle. They say 1 through 7 on them. And plastics 1 and 2 are recyclable. And even though the other ones have that recycling logo on them, the recycling plants won't accept them. They go in the trash. So, you know, there are many states that just don't accept plastics at all because China quit buying them. And so the state of recycling is changing, and you do have sounds like you have a very good grasp of the current state of things in Minnesota, with certain items that have been designated recyclable, as these components for solar panels have been. But in the future, I can't say what it's going to be. I can't tell you if there's going to be a recycling facility 35 years from now within 65 miles. It is an aspirational thing. I would hope that there is. However, you know, I didn't think they'd stop recycling plastic bottles, but they did. And many states are no longer accepting them. Now, there may be some around here that do, but many states aren't. And many types of plastic are not being accepted either.
Yep, and you're right. And of course, again, my paranoia is we're not talking about other states. These panels are going to be in Stearns County, and you say they're going to leave the site. I don't know what guarantee we have of that, but in California, they're cutting the wind turbines down from the poles, cutting them up in pieces and burying them right at the pole of the turbine. And that's in California, for goodness sakes. I mean, the most liberal state in the country. So, boy, I just hope that we don't have, you know, hundreds of thousands of panels buried in Painesville Township.
Well, I think that the CUP is very clear that the system must be removed at the end of its useful life, and we set aside money to remove it at the beginning of then. As far as what goes on in California, I can't tell you I know anything about that.
Yeah, I just did. Yeah, that, you know, you can read up on that if you're interested. That's what's happening. Again, neither here nor there, other than it scares me when it's happening there that it could happen here. And then at 53,
well, it's in our lease that everything would be removed and put back into the state that it was when we took it. So nothing will be buried whatsoever. It's just not something that will happen. And that's directly legal documents that can be seen.
His point is that it's our obligation to the landowner. Well,
absolutely.
Well, yep. If you're the eventual owner, if you're the eventual owner or that owner of that project at that time, I get that.
Mr. Chair, Jason Crone.
Yep, go ahead.
Hey, just real quick question. Good discussion here. Just wondering, are we getting close?
Well, I think I got about 5 more questions, and I got a few more points. And again, I beg your forgiveness, but this is it. We won't have, these questions won't be answered or asked. And as you can see by the letter that was submitted by the public member, there's a current that's starting that people are saying, what's going on? And we
No,
really haven't.
All good. Just checking to see
Yep.
where we're at. All good. Keep
We're
rolling.
getting close. Page 53, panels are used for continued electrical generation. Maybe what we can do is just, it's really not going to matter to the county board. They're going to approve this anyway. So maybe just go ahead and answer those questions in a later time frame. But it says, goes through all this dialogue about how they're going to be recycled. And then on page 53, it says they're going to be used for continued electrical generation. Then why do they have to be removed in the first place?
Right.
So
I mean,
well,
sorry.
let's just, you can answer that with staff, and then staff can share it with us to keep it moving then. Page 56, building permit, I assume that's the county, or is that Painesville Township? They have to get a building permit. Someone's got that covered, I would assume. 56, erosion control logs, again, I don't know who sees those. Evidently they're kept. I've never seen one, so I don't know. I sure would like to see one from a project. Page 57, are the setbacks correct to the current standards? Because we changed them when we opened the door and unleashed no oversight. We changed the setbacks, so I'm not sure if these setbacks meet the former setbacks or the new setbacks. And then, of course, again, remember, everything else we do, we're very rigid about setbacks, but this one doesn't seem to be as rigid. 81, site rules. It must state, I don't know how many times I lost track, reasonable efforts. If I'm an attorney, I'm going to write reasonable efforts. And then if we fail in something, I'll say, well, we were reasonably trying to do that. If we're speeding, well, I was reasonably trying to drive 55, but I was driving 80. I don't think that would work in most factions, but there it is, reasonable efforts. Page 85, single crew, how many people, we won't even get into that. The Minnesota law prohibits the co-location of 1 megawatt solar farms. As you guys know, this is the third or fourth one now, where the new game in town is the solar farms, or different companies are doing the 1 megawatt right beside each other for the reasons that Commissioner Persky can better tell you about. I shared with you the paper articles that Wright County has done a moratorium, and that McLeod County has denied several of the projects, including the most recent one. So the reason I say all this, and again, for the record, on the last project, is there's going to be more projects. Our ordinance 439 that we operate under says a statement of purpose: protecting and promoting the public health, safety, welfare, and morals. Health, safety, welfare. That's what the ordinance 46 or 439 says. It says providing for orderly development of agricultural land uses. As Ms. Listman said, I don't know if creating hundreds of solar farms is creating orderly development of land uses. 3, preserving agricultural land and animal agriculture is what ordinance 439 says. Number 4, it says conserving natural areas of the county. And 5, providing official controls to implement goals and policies included in the Stearns County Comprehensive Plan. Provided official controls. Official controls are public hearings, things like that. 436 says that we should do that. Zoning districts, in ordinance 436, it says the purpose of this district is to maintain and conserve agricultural lands which are historically valuable for crop animal production, pasture land, natural habitat for wildlife within the comprehensive plan land use areas. And of course, read the ordinance yourself and you can read more and more. Page 45 says it's a 35-year project, 25 years with 2 5-year continuations. I've got 4 more points, Jason, and then I'm done. Verbiage says, I don't know how many times, voluntarily participate, willing. Voluntarily participate is on page 49, willing to. page 54, not will do, willing to. Page 54, likely to obtain. Members, were you likely to attend tonight? We need to know, are you going to be here or aren't you going to be here? Because we have to have a quorum. Page 50, to the extent possible. So when we approve a shoreland project and we say you can't cut down, you only can cut down 50 trees. Well, I'm going to try to the extent possible, not cutting down more trees. Half of you would go nuts, and we should. That's the verbiage that's in the application. Wherever possible on page 50, unless necessary. We're not going to do this unless necessary is on page 50. When practical is on page 50. It's stated several times, not farmland. It is farmland. It's been farmed my entire life. I'm 61. I've driven by it. I don't know how old I was that I could look out the window, but it was and is farmed. And in fact, on page 50, it says it will be returned to row crop agriculture. So it's admitting that it is row crop agriculture. It is being farmed, and it's going to be returned, they say, back to the prime farm. And if you look on page 50, or on page 50, yeah, it's 55, I'm sorry, it gives the prime farmland definition. And again, some of you may have read everything, some of you may have not, but the prime farmland, it's a state standard. Prime farmland on the 2040 plan, all farmland in Minnesota is flat, dry, not too deep, and not wooded, is prime farmland as defined by the Department of Agriculture. Nearly all land in Minnesota is flat, dry, not too steep, and not wooded, and is prime farmland under this definition. So again, you can call it what you want, but it's the Minnesota Department of Agriculture standard. It is farmland. It's going to be evidently returned to farmland, which is confusing to me because on page 86, it says the trees, shrubs will remain. Well, if the trees that you grow, plant now, and the shrubs you plant aren't removed, how can you farm the land if there's trees and shrubs there? And again, guys, I'm just pointing this out. This is all over the place of what it says. And then when it hits the fan at some point, people are going to say, why didn't somebody ask these questions? Page 50, 51, the land disturbances, as I said, there are many. Read it, page 50 and 51. Page 54, 56 says there's not going to be land disturbances. And as I said before, I would venture, we don't have time, but I'd be willing to take a bet who could answer this. But how many solar panels do we have in Stearns County today? Today, as of this application, which will be approved on Tuesday, no doubt about it, no matter what we do, well, they'll have their own public hearing if we recommend denial, but 280 acres has been taken out of production and 153 solar panels are in Stearns County today. That's just today. Where are we going to put 153,000 panels? And that's all I have. All of that I want to enter it into the record. And if I'm lucky enough to live to be 96 and this stuff goes south, I'll have my boys remind me that this stuff is all in a record and that I wasn't a part of it. With that, are there any other questions from Planning Commission members or discussion or anything that anybody wants to add? If not, we'll do the findings. Yep, go ahead.
Jason Crone, just one last thing, just where we started. I appreciate Mr. Carlson's response earlier. I feel bad for the companies in some of these cases. They're trying to thread a needle and make something work. So it's just challenging due to tax and regulations that at the end of the day, those things are creating some land use challenges in the current state. But it is what it is, and things will probably change. But it does create land use issues at the end of the day. So appreciate all the comments.
Yep, and our job is to prevent that. I mean, that's our task, is to prevent that from happening. So thank you. Any other comments?
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is Brian Cash.
Yes.
I believe right when I logged on, you asked the question if we realized this would be multiple companies on the site.
Yeah.
And yes, we have been made aware of that.
Okay. And as long as you're with us, Brian, just state your name. Well, you just did your name, but do your address for the record again, please.
Brian Cash, 2 Cedar Place, Tremont, Minnesota.
Thank you. So if there's no other input from Planning Commission members, last chance. If not, then let's do the findings. Number 1, is the proposal consistent with the zoning ordinance? I would say it's not, based on the ordinance number 439 and the 6 references that I made towards that ordinance. If you want me to restate that, I certainly can, either now or off the record. I can do that for staff if you need me to.
Mr. Chair, I would cite the same ordinance and say it actually is consistent with the ordinance, being solar farms are conditional uses allowed in the ag zones.
Okay. Number 2, does the proposal conform to the comprehensive plan of the county?
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman here. I do believe it does with the future land use map, and also the clean energy policies under the ag goals. Number 1, solar system site sources is the way to reduce conflict with adjacent lands, and requiring beneficial habitat ground cover on sites.
And I would say that it is not, does not conform. I'm just going to list the numbers to save the time of reading that. Under agricultural goals, number 2, utilize sustainable practices. Number 3, retain areas with agricultural land. Number 5, strengthen and retain areas with agricultural land and animal production. Under agricultural use policies, I would say it does not conform to number 1, primary land uses based on the definition of Department of Agriculture, which I cited. Number 2, does not conform, emphasize the importance of animal agriculture and priority the use. Number 3, does not conform, encourage agricultural practices that coexist with sensitive natural resources due to the DNR's future comments at some point. 4, does not conform, encourage sustainable agricultural practices to protect prime farmland. 5, does not conform, projects that are located in agricultural area. And under crop and product diversification policies, number 1, does not conform, encourage diversification of crops, products to enhance the regional agricultural presence. Under animal agricultural policies, number 2, does not conform, follow pollution control standards consistent with state requirements. And under clean energy policies, number 1, does not conform, cite solar energy systems in a way that reduces conflict with land uses, including but not limited to areas that will impact future development potential, as Ms. Listman said in her letter. Item number 3, is the proposal compatible with existing neighborhood?
Mr. Chair, Jason Crone, I think you can look at it 2 ways. You can look at it like one of the neighbors and say that it's not consistent with the traditional agriculture of the area. You can look at it another way and say it is consistent from the perspective that there's a lot of loosely aggregated solar gardens within the general area because of the transformers and a lot of other reasons. So you can make an argument both ways on this one.
Okay. 4, how has the applicant demonstrated that standards and criteria stated in the ordinance will be satisfied?
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman here. They've agreed to the conditions as provided by staff, and they also have a variety of financial assurances regarding decommissioning.
5, other issues pertinent to this matter. Township input, none. Federal, state, local permits. I don't think there's permits, but there's regulations.
Mr. Chair, this is one of the first sites we've seen where we do have an adjacent neighbor that I can remember expressing misgivings over the site. So that's a new evolution.
Environmental concerns, groundwater, surface water quality, I think they've all been stated with my questions and points. Information submitted regarding property values, there has been none. Public health, safety, traffic generation impacts. Again, I think the public health issues and safety I've addressed earlier. Public service and facilities, including schools, parks, streets, utilities, I would say minimum. Just during short periods of time. Financial assurance required to guarantee reclamation. It's 185,000 security that's required. So with that, motion would be in order.
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman here. I recommend forwarding this application to the Board of Commissioners for approval.
Motion's been motion's been made by Jason Wienerman to recommend approval to the county board. Is there a second? Is there a second?
Mr.
No
Chair,
second.
Ken Mossman, I will second it.
Okay, Ken Mossman seconds the motion to recommend approval. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, we'll take a roll. If you're for the motion by Jason Wiederman, second by Ken Mossman, to recommend approval to the county board, say aye. If you're opposed, say nay. Jason Wiederman.
Aye.
Sean Blackburn.
Nay.
Jason Crone.
I'm an aye on this one.
Ken Mossman.
Aye.
Mike Perrell.
Nay.
Rich Blankish.
Nay.
Chair votes no. Nay. So 4-3, the motion to recommend approval to the county board is denied. So a counter motion would have to be made.
Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn, I'm going to make a motion that we recommend denial of this application.
Motion's been made by Sean Blackburn to recommend denial of the application to the county board. Is there a second? I'll second that motion. Any discussion on the motion? Motion's been made by Sean Blackburn, second by me, to recommend denial to the county board. If you're in favor of that motion, say aye. If you're opposed to that motion, say nay. Jason Wienerman.
Nay.
Sean Blackburn.
Aye.
Jason Crone.
Nay.
Ken Mossman.
Nay.
Mike Perrell.
Aye.
Rich Blankish.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. So 4-3, the recommendation is to recommend denial to the county board at their meeting for Tuesday, April 20th. Next agenda item is item number 3.
Goodbye.
Regarding the Kurt and Christine Krebs Cold Spring on behalf of Evelyn Krebs, according to section 4.1. Angie will give the staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This item is submitted by Evelyn Krebs Trust on behalf of Kurt and Christine Krebs. The request is to rezone approximately 5 acres from agricultural 40 to the commercial zoning district. The property in question is 5 acres, which is part of a 308-acre parcel. If the rezoning is approved, the applicant has plans to turn the chicken barn into an individual storage facility. Again, the property in question is located in Albany Township. Albany Township did recommend approval. The chicken barn is not used for chickens any longer. It is not a registered feedlot. Adjacent land uses, Mr. Chair, as some of you will likely document if you went out to the site, and probably noticed a mixture of homes, feedlots, animals, and there's some central livestock to the north. Albany sewer ponds are close by as well. The property in the comprehensive plan future land use map is listed as a transition area. The land evaluation site assessment score is 67.85. We'll bring up map. So you won't even see the extent of the whole parcel. It is outlined in blue. However, the parcel in question for rezoning is the yellow area. And again, I believe the application was very thorough in explaining their desired use of the property. That's all I have for now, unless there's any questions.
Mr. Chair, do you have the applicants with us?
Yes, we're here.
Okay, I'll wait for my questions.
Right. We'll do the who was at the site review, then we'll check in with the applicants. So if you were at the site, say yes. If you were not, say no. Jason Wienerman?
Yes.
Sean Blackburn?
Yes.
Jason Crone?
Yes.
Ken Mossman?
Yes.
Mike Perrell?
Yes.
Rich Blankish?
Yes.
Commissioner Persky?
Yes.
And I was there. So now we'll do the applicant introductions. I understand that Krebs, I believe that was Kurt. Please state, who's ever with us, your name and address for the record.
Kurt Krebs, 16987 Jennifer Drive, Cold Spring.
Christine Krebs, 16987 Jennifer Drive, Cold Spring.
Okay.
Evelyn Krebs, 23336 Orchard Road, Albany.
Okay, thank you. Anything you want to add to the staff report that Angie just gave?
No.
Okay. We'll open the public hearing. There was one letter. No one's in the building. Is there anyone with us online that would want to share comments? Hearing none, why don't we read the letter, Angie?
Mr. Chair, as the letter was supplied in your packet, would you like me to read it verbatim or paraphrase?
Did all members get a chance to read the letter? Or let me say this, did anybody not read the letter? Okay, hearing none, let's enter the letter as a matter of public record, and that we've recognized that we all have seen and read it.
Yes, Mr. Chair, and it was submitted by Steve and Tammy Fredericks, and it was in support of the application.
Yes, thank you. So if there's no one in the building, no one online to share any thoughts, we could close the public hearing.
Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn.
Thank you. Then we'll ask the applicants some questions. Go ahead, Sean.
I move we close the public hearing.
Thank you.
Jason Crone seconds.
Okay, Sean moved. Jason Crone seconds. Close the public hearing. Any discussion? If not, if you're for closing the public hearing, say aye. If you're opposed, say nay. Jason Wienerman?
Aye.
Sean Blackburn?
Aye.
Jason Crone?
Aye.
Ken Mossman?
Aye.
Mike Perrell?
Aye.
Rich Blankish?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The public hearing is closed. So Jason Wienerman, you had a question for the applicants.
Yeah, so in the application report, it says there are two accesses to this parcel, one from the south and one from the north. From my looking at the site, those are private driveways or access roads, is that correct?
That's a driveway. The main entrance for the farm is off of Orchard Road. The other road was is just an extra driveway.
So following up on that question, seeing as we're changing the zoning of this parcel, if you or your family chooses to sell this parcel at a later date, is there any mechanism for a new owner to have access to the parcel through an existing public route?
If we sell the farm, Chris and I are going to buy the 20, and it doesn't show on the map that you have there, but it's basically the southern end of it. So we would actually, if the farm would ever get sold, we would actually put a fence up on that driveway at the end of our 20. So there would be no access from the north to the farm. You would have to use Orchard Road to enter the farm. And just the road going along Central Livestock there from County Road 10 would be the storage facility access.
Okay.
So, but so follow up on that question, if this parcel leaves you or your family and just is owned by a stranger 30, 40 years down the road, where we have no idea, what would then be the access to the parcel?
Are you talking 20-acre parcel or the farmstead parcel?
The one that we're rezoning, the 20-acre part.
Oh, 20-acre. The 20-acre will always be, for the rezoning, will always be accessible via County Road 10, right past Central Livestock. That road that comes down to the chicken barn, that will always be there.
Okay.
That's why we wanted to purchase right up to Central Livestock and purchase that driveway for that specific reason.
Okay, thank you.
And before I forget, we should state that Jennifer Buckentine did a site review on March 20th of 2021. And
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Jason.
Well, you know what? I actually had a similar question, I think, in mindset to where Jason was going, because I was looking at how it's a rezoning and it's kind of in the central part of the parcel. I was curious if there's a reason that it was designated just to those 5 acres, or if it would make sense, since it's rezoning, to just extend that all the way back to County Road 10 and section off a quadrant. To the best of my knowledge, that wouldn't limit any kind of agricultural practices or anything like that, but it would make the zoning less spot zoning in the future. This is a transitional area, so recognizing it's likely is to undergo change in the future, it would seem more logical. But that's where my head was at when I looked at this. And question, I guess, for staff or the applicants, if that would be something that would make more sense.
Mr. Chair, I can comment on that, and then Krebs can give their comments. So we would definitely want to continue this and let the township have some input on that. If the Krebs were even interested in rezoning, that's a very large area to rezone to commercial. So I definitely would want to give the township an opportunity to give their input on the chicken barn, which is 5 acres compared to a 20-acre parcel. So if that's the desire of the Planning Commission or the Krebs, then I think this item would need to be continued for further consideration.
I think that the township weighed in on the 5 acres. I think the Krebs want to move forward with it. I don't know that we would complicated, but we certainly can if anybody
No,
wants to.
I don't want to compliment. I don't want to complicate it. I just wanted to. Yep.
Commissioner Persky?
I was just going to say, Jason, I had seen the same thing, and I questioned that myself. Again, it just appears that we're putting just a little island out there around that barn. But I mean, if that's the way it's going to be, so be it. But it seemed to me too that it maybe should be squared off with the county road. But again, if we can go, if they want to go that route, I guess I'm not going to be in the way of doing it. But it just seems odd.
Yep, no, fair. And I didn't want to delay this thing either, because at the end of the day, if you rent out storage space in Chicken Barn, totally cool. I don't want to get in the way of that. It makes sense. It's more the zoning that prohibits that from happening in the first place. Just looking at it into the future, but I'm cool. That's a good response. Thank you.
And I think part of the complication was we required this to be rezoned commercial in order for storage facilities to occur, because back in the day, they weren't allowed. And that's not probably smart either. But do you want to just explain, Angie, the color on the rezoning request ordinance number 62, the red, the gray? Just explain that for the record, what that all is. The red is, why is the gray shaded gray versus the red? Is that because of the location?
This map, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Okay, so the green is A40, the red is commercial. This gray area likely is mislabeled. It's showing up as a C. It's more than likely an I for industrial. That's the color of gray. The R5 would be residential 5, and then the yellow area with the gray outline is incorporated into the city of Albany.
The gray being labeled C confused me, so that's why I thought I was losing it, but I guess I wasn't.
We'll follow up on that and see if it's a labeling error. That would be my hunch, but we'll make sure that gets looked at.
And the Krebs probably would know what's located there, Kurt.
Is the red C would be central livestock, correct?
Okay. And what do you think? What do you think that gray is then? If it's industrial.
Maybe not. No, I bet. Okay, so that C is probably. You think, Mom? Do you think that's where Peter now had that little fenced in with the building that the county bought? Is that running along there? I can't see where the road is. So I'm kind of lost on.
And it's okay. Yeah, it's not a big thing. I was just curious. We'll find out, and then you'll correct the zoning map then.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you. Any other questions from Planning Commission members?
Good year.
We closed the public hearing. Discussion's done. So findings of fact would be next. The Krebses, do you have anything else to say?
No, we're good on this end.
Okay, thank you. So we'll do the findings of fact.
Commissioner Persky.
Commissioner Persky?
With the Krebs here, I'm just curious as far as the date of the building. What year was it? I don't, maybe I missed it in the application. What year was it constructed?
1985.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I just was looking at what vintage it was. That's all. I'm just curious.
Okay.
Evelyn New. Way to go, Evelyn.
And Mr. Chair, I do have an answer for you. That's Albany Recycling, and it is zoned industrial. So our label is incorrect.
Got it. Okay. That answers it. And then we'll correct that probably. Okay. Nothing else, we'll go to the findings. Number 1, is the proposal consistent with the zoning ordinance? Why or why not?
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman here. It's actually currently Act 40. So it would be inconsistent with the current zoning plan of it. However, the location of near Albany and the conversion of the site, an existing barn to a storage facility, this would be compatible with the zoning change in the region.
2, does the proposal conform to the comprehensive plan of the county?
Mr. Chair, Jason Crone, a variety of them. Probably my favorite 2, rural business policies. And number 2, rural business in the ag areas should utilize the property's existing infrastructure and buildings, which this would be doing. And then encourage rural businesses seeking expansion in ag areas to locate near major transportation corridors, town site mixed use areas, or transitional areas. And this definitely applies to that as well.
Is the proposal compatible with the existing neighborhood?
Mr. Chair, I'd say from the perspective of ag, no. If you extend the neighborhood to the areas to the north and west, it would be. It's a commercial type rental business. It's not going to make a major difference to the surrounding neighbors.
4, how has the applicant demonstrated that standards and criteria stated in the ordinance will be satisfied? It's pretty straight up. It's going to be a storage facility. You really can't do much different than that. 5, other issues pertinent to the matter, township input. We got that. Federal, state, local permits, none required that I'm aware of. Environmental concerns. I don't see any. Information submitted regarding impact property values. We received none. Public health, safety, traffic generation. Minimum traffic generation, bringing in and out the storage items, public service facilities, schools, parks, streets, utilities, really not applicable. Financial assurance isn't required. So with that,
Mr. Chair, Jason Crone.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to recommend approval. And I'm just trying to double check what the proposed conditions were, if there were any. And if there was, yeah, I'm just trying to scroll back up on my screen. I don't think there were. I take that. Yeah, no conditions.
There are no conditions for rezoning.
Jason Crone.
You could have told me that earlier.
Ken likes to play hard to get, so that's good. It played out well. Jason Crone moved to recommend approval. Ken wants to second it, I see. He winked, so I got picked.
I will second it.
Thank you. Any discussion on that motion to recommend approval by the county board on Tuesday, April 20th? No
Just
discussion.
one more question, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Persky.
This is the staff. You know, and I like the project moving forward. I understand the commercial. It's a good use of that building. Future use. How much impervious is allowed on that 5 acres? In that I could see a second building or, new storage going in there as well. Just something mindful to the applicants. They would, if they don't, have the impervious there, just to make sure that that's meeting their need now instead of coming back later. But maybe might be a little bit late. But with staff, how much impervious can they have? What percentage can they have on that 5 acres?
Angie?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Persky, so the property owners, and I should have done a better job explaining that, but they're actually buying 20 acres, and of the 25 will be commercial. So the part, we allow 60% lot coverage in the commercial and industrial zoning districts and 25% outside. So the easy way to answer your question would be is we would look at the commercial area and they would be allowed 60% lot coverage within that particular area of the property if this was to be approved.
Okay. And then Angie, do they have to stay within those parameters of the parcel that's designated the commercial? So for example, if they were the same property owners that have the ag around that, does that ag around there actually count as pervious?
Angie?
So, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Persky, the way we would look at that is we would look at the yellow on the map and we would look and see if that is meeting the 60% lot coverage. If that makes sense. I mean, lot coverage is typically based off of the parcel, but in the situation where you have part of the property it's a split zoning, right? So you're going to have part ag and you're going to have part commercial. So I believe what we would do is look at the yellow and say within the yellow, you're allowed 60%.
Oh, okay. But they could not exceed that and say, well, we're going to make it up with the ag portion.
I don't believe so. We would have to discuss that in the department. I don't know that we've had a similar situation, does not come to mind, but we would definitely work with them on that if another building or use were to be established.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. So the motion's been made and seconded to recommend approval of the county board on Tuesday, April 20th. If you're for that motion, say aye. If you're against the motion, say nay. Jason Wiederman?
Aye.
Sean Blackburn?
Aye.
Jason Crone?
Aye.
Ken Mossman?
Aye.
Mike Perrell?
Aye.
Rich Blankish?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Recommendation is made to the county board to approve the recommendation again on Tuesday. So thanks to the Krebs. Next order of business would be the minutes from March 18th.
Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn.
Thank you, Sean.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes.
Thank you, Sean. Is there a second?
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman here. I'll second that.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded by Sean, second by Jason to approve the minutes from March 18th. If you're in favor, say aye. Opposed, say nay. Jason Wienerman.
Aye.
Sean Blackburn.
Aye.
Jason Crone.
Aye.
Ken Mossman.
Aye.
Mike Perrell.
Aye.
Rich Blankish.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Other than that, somebody's got something? If not, I don't see anything. I'll move to adjourn the meeting. See you guys. See you May 20th is our next meeting. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
We got one
Meeting
in
adjourned.
2 weeks, right?
Right. Monday night is a meeting,
Monday.
ordinance review, you bet. And the planning commission is May 20th. I'm sorry.
Thanks, everyone.
Guys.
And
Is the Monday meeting at 3 or at 7?
It's 3, Angie, isn't it?
Mr. Chair, I believe it's 3:30.
3:30, I think it is, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Bye, everybody.
Good night.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.